It was Christmas Eve in 2015, and I was 15 years old, working at Walgreens. It wasn't the most fun place to be on such a special night. I had the closing shift, which meant I'd be alone there until midnight. The Walgreens was about 5 miles from my house, tucked away on a quiet street with no one around. During the day, lots of people came in, but after 8 in the evening, it was really quiet. Christmas Eve was the same. I didn't think anyone would come in after 8. The day started off really busy, like usual, but it slowed down a lot after 8 o'clock. I was the only one working at the cash register in the pharmacy because it closed at 10. Also, the girl I liked who worked there left, which made me feel a bit down. For 2 hours, I was all by myself at the register. Time passed really slowly, and I felt lonely. I only helped one customer in an entire hour, which was unusual. Then something weird happened. I heard a light tap on the window and saw a guy wearing a heavy coat and a hoodie. He was staring right at me, and it gave me a spooky feeling. Someone casually walked in, looked at me, then walked away into the different sections of the store. After a few minutes, I started hearing a tapping sound, like someone was hitting something lightly. It seemed like it was coming from one of the sections in the store, but whenever I looked, I couldn't find anyone making the noise. The tapping continued, almost like it was a secret code in Morse code. I really needed to go to the bathroom, but the store's rules said I couldn't leave while there were customers around. Time passed, and even after 10 minutes, I still hadn't seen the person who made the tapping sound, but the tapping itself didn't stop. So, I said, hello? And started looking in different parts of the store. Whenever I went down an aisle, I heard noises from the next one. When I peeked through the shelves in the candy aisle, I saw someone looking at me. It was really scary, but then it got even scarier. There was this tall guy who was making strange noises and laughing like he was crazy. He started coming toward me in a weird, bouncy way. It wasn't funny at all. It felt like something from a scary movie. I moved away, getting ready to ask for help. So this guy suddenly stopped moving. His happy expression changed to an angry one, and I quickly ran towards the entrance. But when I glanced back, he was running after me, not acting silly anymore. I got really scared and hurried outside, worried he might catch me before I could lock up. I ran around to the back and got in through the door that wasn't locked. I made sure to lock it tightly and then ran back to the front. I called my boss and told them that some crazy person was chasing me. But then I heard it again, the sound of someone tapping from inside. I didn't stick around to see what happened. I ran away quickly without looking back. I called my boss from home, and he contacted the police. It turned out that nothing was taken, according to what they said. But my boss wasn't happy that I left like that, so we didn't speak after that. The following day was Christmas, and I tried to have a regular day. However, that night at Walgreens was really unusual. The police visited me later and asked some questions. They searched the place, wrote things down, but didn't find anything important. They looked at the security cameras, but they only saw me moving around quickly. I felt nervous for some time, thinking that tall person might suddenly appear. But as time passed, nothing happened. It was a bit comforting, but I was also curious. Why was that person acting strange? Was it just to scare me? Or was there something bad they were planning? Christmas went fine, but the night before was weird. I was with my family. We opened presents and ate a nice meal. But I couldn't stop thinking about this spooky experience at Walgreens. It felt like a scene from a scary movie, and it became this strange memory. After that, I made sure to avoid going to that Walgreens after sunset. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. A few years ago, during a Christmas trip with my family in Ontario, something exciting happened. We were in a nice neighborhood and had planned to spend the holidays at a cabin for hunting in the forest. At that time, I was 18 years old and my younger brother Tom was 11. We were really close. Plus, we had our loyal German Shepherd, Trigger, along with us for protection. On Christmas Eve, we got ready around 2 p.m. and put all our presents and things in Dad's truck. We went on a fun trip in the truck. Me and my friend Tom were really excited and joking with each other the whole time. We met Dad's sister, Aunt Billy, and her family in a nearby village, but they didn't stay long because they didn't know how to find the cabins. Dad helped them with directions. Finally, around 4 p.m., we arrived at the cabins. There were a bunch of cabins spread out in the woods. Each family got their own cabin, and there was a common area for everyone to hang out together. When we arrived, it was super cold, and snow was falling heavily. We went inside the cabin. Mom made a lot of delicious food, and we played games. Dad, Tom, and I decided to go hunting the next day. I've gone hunting a few times with Dad before, but it would be Tom's first time. He was really excited, even though he couldn't shoot because he was too young. At about 10 p.m., we were all feeling tired. My dad left his hunting rifles in a bag under my bed because we planned to go hunting the next day. My friend Tom and I were sharing a room that had a great view of a river. Tom's dog, Trigger, was sleeping at the end of Tom's bed. But then things started to get strange. Around 3 a.m., Trigger began growling. At first, I didn't think much of it because sometimes my dad has trouble sleeping. But this time, my room was dark, which was unusual because my dad usually leaves a light on. When my dad came in and turned on the light, he acted strangely, asking if we were laughing, even though we hadn't been. He didn't explain why he asked that. He checked outside and closed the curtains. We tried to go back to sleep, but I was too nervous. Early in the morning at around 4:30, I was almost falling asleep when I heard strange sounds outside my window. It wasn't animals, more like someone walking. I got really scared, covered myself with blankets, and started sweating a lot. My pet, Trigger, was alert too. Then, I heard tapping which kept getting louder, and Trigger started barking like crazy. There was an old man, maybe around 60 years old, outside our window saying weird things. I quickly got my dad's hunting gun to scare him away. I warned him I'd shoot, but instead of getting scared, he just smiled more, which was really creepy. Trigger was still barking loudly. Our parents rushed in, turned on the lights, and that's when everything got really loud. Mom screamed, Dad yelled. The man ran away into the woods, but the police caught him later. I found out that the guy I met in the woods was actually homeless and struggling with some mental problems. It's scary to think about what could have happened to him if I hadn't been there. We spent Christmas at a cabin but stayed at Aunt Billy's that night. The next day, we quickly went back home. Later, my dad told me he had left a gun under my bed because he noticed someone hanging around our cabin. He didn't want to scare us, but he got worried when he heard the guy laughing and singing outside his window. He called the police. That Christmas was really wild. The police looked into what happened after catching the guy. Turns out, he'd been living in the woods for a bit. He had some problems with his mental health and had recently wandered into that area. They found where he'd been staying in the woods, like a makeshift home with his things. The cops checked the nearby cabins to see if anything seemed wrong, like someone breaking in or causing danger. They talked to everyone and gathered proof, but it seemed like this guy was just hanging around, causing problems without actually trying to break in or hurt anyone physically. Something really scary happened to us. A man was looking through our window, and it was really upsetting for all of us, especially Mom. But luckily, Dad acted fast by leaving a gun to protect us, even though it was scary to think how close we were to danger. The police checked everything and started watching our neighborhood more often, especially during holidays, so everyone could feel safe. We went back to our usual days, but that Christmas was really strange and scary for us. We'll always remember it as a really weird and scary time. Last year during the holidays, my friend Jason and I were really excited about getting a tree for our new home. We live in a town called Pineville, which has lots of forests full of amazing spruce trees nearby. It was our first Christmas in our own place, so we thought it would be super cool to chop down our own tree. We drove Jason's old truck on a snowy night to find the best tree. The forest was in a hilly area and super cold. Jason was really excited, but I preferred staying home. Still, we walked through the snow looking for a spruce tree that would fit in our living room. We searched for the perfect tree, and we found it. Jason took an axe and began chopping the tree. After a few hits, the tree fell down with a loud crash. That's when I remembered I didn't have gloves, and Jason had left them in the truck. He threw me the keys, and I rushed down the hill to get them. When I was away, Jason was sitting on a tree log playing with a flashlight. The forest was getting darker and felt a bit scary being all alone. When I got back, I heard footsteps. Jason thought it was me, but the footsteps stopped and no one replied. I thought Jason was trying to prank me, so I quietly approached to scare him. All of a sudden, a person came charging out of the dark, grabbed the flashlight, and turned it off. I got really scared and ran down the hill towards the truck. I could hear someone shouting, and it sounded like Jason was calling my name. I got into the truck, and my friend Jason was already there, really scared. He urgently asked me to drive, and I didn't hesitate. As we left, we saw a spooky guy standing right where our truck had been. We hurried back to our town and went to Home Depot to buy a tree. But when we got home, things got weirder. The police came to our door, asking about something that happened in the woods. They said someone strange was seen there, and they were checking it out. Jason and I shared all we knew with the police. They looked around the forest and discovered strange things like footprints and marks on trees. The police asked if we saw anything specific about the person, but it was nighttime, and things happened quickly. We couldn't give a detailed description. The police were nice, but seemed concerned. They promised to watch the area and advised us to call them if more odd things happened. It was scary thinking about the person in the woods and what they might have been doing. Something scary happened that messed up our Christmas excitement. We bought a tree from the store and tried to forget about it, but we couldn't stop thinking about the strange encounter we had. We kept watching for any news about the weird person, but there wasn't much information. The police couldn't figure it out, and we were relieved nothing worse happened that night. Since then, Jason and I haven't felt as joyful about Christmas. We joked about it later, but we decided we won't go looking for our own tree again. It's safer to stick with the store-bought ones, even if they're not as thrilling.